Tonight, I want to speak in a quiet way about something most of us know very well, even if we don't always have words for it. It's a simple line, the kind of line you can carry in your pocket and pull out when life gets a little sharp. Anger is instinct, stillness is strength. Or, in another native way of saying the same thing, anger is natural and calm is mastery. Anger is a reflex and stillness is self-control. Most people agree with that when they're already calm. The hard part is that life doesn't test us when we're calm. It tests us when we're tired, when we're hungry, when we're overwhelmed, when we feel dismissed, when we feel ignored, when we feel disrespected, when something hits a tender place inside us. And in those moments, anger can show up so quickly that it feels like it arrives before we do. I don't want to talk about anger like it's a monster, or like you're a bad person for feeling it. I want to talk about it like it's a signal. Not a signal to explode, not a signal to pretend you're fine, just a signal that something in you is trying to protect something important. Let me start with a very small moment. Someone sends a message. Nothing dramatic. Maybe it's a simple question. Maybe it's a gentle check-in. Maybe it's a, "Hey, can you tell me when you'll be home?" They wait. A little time passes. And then they see the word that can make the chest feel strangely tight. Seen. No reply. "No, I'm busy." "No, I'll get back to you." Just seen. And the mind does what the mind loves to do in silence. It fills the space. It builds a story. It starts asking questions that don't feel like questions, but more like accusations. Why didn't they answer? Am I not important? Are they ignoring me? Did I do something wrong? Do they even care? The fingers start moving quickly. A long message appears, almost as if it's writing itself. The words get sharper than necessary. The tone gets heavier than the moment deserves. And right before the person hits send, there's a pause. Not because the anger is gone, not because they suddenly feel peaceful, but because a quiet thought slips in through the crack. If I send this, will I regret it in 10 minutes? That tiny pause is the whole lesson. Without a lecture, the instinct is real. The heat is real. The urge is real. But strength lives in the pause. Anger is instinct. Stillness is strength. Anger, in a very human sense, is a survival emotion. Your body was built to protect you. So when you feel threatened, even emotionally threatened, your nervous system can flip into an old mode. Defend, prove, react, win. You might feel it in your breathing first. It gets shallow. You might feel it in your thoughts. They narrow. You might feel it in your voice. It rises. You might feel it in your patience. It disappears. The most dangerous part of anger isn't the volume. The most dangerous part is what it does to your vision. Anger shrinks your wisdom. It turns a wide world into a narrow hallway where everything becomes right or wrong, win or lose, attack or be attacked. In that narrow hallway, we stop asking, what's really happening here? And we start asking, what do I say back right now? And that sense of urgency can be so convincing. It can make a temporary feeling feel like an emergency. Here's another small moment. A woman stands at a coffee counter. It's not a terrible day, just a busy one. She orders a drink. The barista mishears her. She repeats it. The barista still doesn't get it. The barista, a little stressed, says something like, okay, I got it, in a tone that lands just a bit sharp. It's a small thing. It's nothing really. And yet, something rises in her. Not because of the coffee, not because of the words, but because of the meaning her body attaches to that moment. Maybe she feels embarrassed. Maybe she feels like people are impatient with her. Maybe she feels small. For a second, she wants to snap back, to protect her dignity with a little bite. But she notices her own heat, the tight jaw, the warm face, the urge to prove something. And instead of feeding it, she softens her voice and says, "No worries, thank you." Nothing dramatic happens, nobody claps, nobody learns a lesson. But something important happens inside her. She stays herself. She doesn't hand her mood to a stranger and let it control her whole day. That is stillness. Not weakness, not silence, just self-leadership. And it's worth saying this gently. A lot of anger is not about what happened. It's about what it means. A late reply may not be about the reply. It may be about feeling ignored. A critical comment may not be about the comment. It may be about feeling disrespected. A joke may not be about the joke. It may be about feeling unsafe. So anger becomes the top layer, the hard shell. Under it, there are softer emotions: hurt, sadness, fear, disappointment, loneliness. Many people don't want to show the softer emotions. Softer emotions feel vulnerable, so we wear anger like armor. Armor feels powerful, armor feels protective, but armor is heavy. If you live inside it too long, you become tired and sharp and distant. Stillness is strength because it lets you look under the armor and ask quietly, where does it actually hurt? And when you name the real pain, anger often softens, not because the situation is suddenly okay, but because you've found the root instead of fighting the surface. Let me share a work moment. A man sits in a meeting. He worked hard on a project. He stayed late. He cared. Then someone says, in front of the group, "This part isn't good enough." Maybe it's meant as feedback. Maybe it's not meant to embarrass him. But his chest gets hot anyway. His pride feels touched. The words jump up inside him. "That's not fair. You don't see how hard I worked. You always do this." He speaks too fast. His voice gets sharper than he planned. The room doesn't explode. No one yells. But the energy changes. People get careful. Trust thins a little. Later, he doesn't lose his job, but he loses something quiet: ease, safety, the sense that the room is on his side. And when he's alone, he thinks, "I wish I had paused for 10 seconds. Because 10 seconds can change your tone, and your tone can change your future. That's one reason stillness is strength. It protects your reputation. It protects the way people experience you. It protects the version of yourself you want to be remembered as. Stillness doesn't mean you never speak. Stillness doesn't mean you accept disrespect. Stillness doesn't mean you swallow everything. Stillness is not weakness. Stillness is the space between the trigger and the reaction. It's a moment where you remember, I am feeling anger, but I am not my anger. And there's a difference between stillness and silence. Silence can be cold. Silence can punish. Silence can manipulate. That kind of silence is not strength. Stillness is responsible. Stillness is a pause that protects what matters. It says, I need a moment so I don't hurt you and I don't hurt myself. It pauses without abandoning. It steps away, but it returns. Here's a small moment from a supermarket line. Someone is already tired. The day has been long. They're standing in line, just trying to get home. And a person behind them sighs loudly, then says something like, "Can you move faster?" It's not a big insult. But tired people don't have thick skin. The tired person feels heat rise because the body thinks, I'm being pushed, I'm being disrespected. They want to turn around and say something cutting. Then they notice the truth underneath. This isn't only anger, this is exhaustion. This is an overloaded nervous system. And they realize if I react, I'll carry this heat all the way home. I'll bring it into my kitchen, into my voice, into my evening. So they breathe once, they pay, they leave, and outside the night air feels cooler than the thought of winning a small argument. Sometimes stillness is not for the other person. Sometimes stillness is for you, so you don't bring poison into your own home. Here's a small moment between two people who love each other. It's late. The kitchen light is on. One person says, "You said you would do this." The other person says, "I forgot." A small sentence, but it lands like a stone. Because the first person doesn't hear, "I forgot." The first person hears, "You don't matter." And anger rises not because of the task, but because of the meaning. In that moment, the instinct wants to say, "You always do this," or "You never care," or "I'm done." Those are big final words, and they can destroy a soft thing very quickly. Stillness is strength because it allows truth without cruelty. Instead of attacking, the person says, "When you forget, I feel unimportant. I need to feel considered." That's not weak. That's clear. That's adult. That's calm mastery. It's a way of protecting love without pretending everything is fine. Anger often walks in with the ego. The ego wants to be right. The ego wants to win. The ego wants to prove, "You can't treat me like this." But life isn't only about being right. Life is also about outcomes. You can be right and still lose trust. You can be right and still damage love. You can be right and still lose an opportunity. Anger gives a quick feeling of power. It makes you feel strong for a moment, but real strength is quieter. Real strength is being able to feel heat without burning everything. Stillness is strength because it chooses what is valuable over what is urgent. It chooses the future over the impulse. Here's a small moment with a child. A parent comes home carrying a heavy day. The mind is crowded. The body is tense. They walk into the living room and a child spills water on the floor. It's not a disaster. It's just water. But the parent's nervous system is already full and anger rises anyway. Not because of the water, but because of everything. Because of pressure. Because of fatigue. Because it feels like they carry the whole world. For a second, the parent wants to shout. Then they see the child's face small, worried, waiting. And the parent remembers something simple and life-changing. My child will not remember the water, but my child will remember my voice. So the parent lowers their tone and says, "It's okay. Let's clean it together." That is stillness. That is strength. Because sometimes strength isn't controlling the room. Sometimes strength is controlling yourself. Another small moment happens on the road. Someone cuts you off. There's a horn, a glare, maybe a rude gesture. The heat is instant. The instinct wants to chase, to prove a point, to show you're not weak. That's the ego again, gripping the wheel. But then you imagine arriving home angry. You imagine walking in with sharp energy, snapping at the first person you love, turning a small insult into a whole evening of tension. And suddenly, letting it go feels like a form of self-respect. Not because the other driver deserves kindness, but because your peace deserves protection. Stillness is strength because it prevents your day from becoming a chain reaction. One small spark doesn't need to become a fire. Anger is fire. Fire can warm a home. Fire can cook food. Fire can give light. But if you let it run freely, it destroys. So the goal is not to have no fire. The goal is to hold the fire without letting it burn you or others. A strong person is not someone who never gets angry. A strong person is someone who can be angry and still be respectful, angry and still kind, angry and still in control. I said I wouldn't make this a long list of techniques, and I won't. But I'll offer one small, gentle break, just one, because it can change a whole night. When you feel anger rising, try pausing with a sentence, out loud if you can, or quietly in your mind. Something like, "I'm too heated right now. Give me a few minutes and we'll talk." Or, "I don't want to say something I'll regret. Let me calm down first." Or even, "I want to respond, not react." That's all. A sentence, a breath, a small space. Many regrets happen simply because we didn't create that space. Pausing is not losing. Pausing is choosing. And sometimes the hardest anger is not towards someone else. Sometimes it's toward yourself. You make a mistake. You forget something. You fail again. You break your own promise. And your inner voice becomes sharp. "Why are you like this? You always ruin things. You're not good enough." That voice can pretend to be discipline, but it's often just cruelty wearing a serious face. Stillness is strength here too. Stillness is the ability to stop and say, "I'm disappointed, but I will not abandon myself." Because self-hatred doesn't create change, it creates fear. And fear creates more mistakes. Stillness becomes a softer strength. I can correct myself without crushing myself. That is calm mastery. That is real growth. There's a quiet question that can guide a lot of this, and it's a native, everyday question, simple but powerful. Is it worth it? Is it worth losing peace for this moment? Is it worth losing trust for this sentence? Is it worth losing love for this victory? Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every reaction is worth releasing. Stillness is strength because it protects what is irreplaceable. Sometimes stillness is the most powerful no. No, I won't turn this into a war. No, I won't become someone I don't respect. No, I won't trade my future for a temporary feeling. If you're carrying anger tonight, Please don't hate yourself for it. Anger is instinct. It's a human alarm. It's your system trying to protect you. But you are not your anger. You are the one who can choose. You can choose stillness, not to stay silent forever, but to speak when you're clear. You can choose a pause, not to avoid the truth, but to say the truth without cruelty. And if you only remember one line from this gentle reflection, let it be this: I won't let a temporary emotion decide a lasting consequence. Anger is instinct. Stillness is strength. And sometimes strength is simply a pause right before you press send.